You heard yesterday about the closure of the popular jump-up four-wheel drive track in the northern part of Murujuga National Park in the Pilbara. It's that 20-metre tall, rocky track. It could only be driven over in a decked-out four-wheel drive, but the closure is for a few reasons. Partly for safety, and also to allow a sealed road aimed at improving accessibility to some of the region's most isolated beaches. Now, back last month, you heard about plans to close access to the remote wilderness area of Cape Farquhar on the Ningaloo coast, and also further restrictions for four-wheel drives on Broom's Cable Beach at certain times of year when turtles are nesting. So what does the future of four-wheel driving look like in Western Australia, and is there a way to do it sustainably? Graham Webber is the chair of Track Care WA. Graham, good morning.
Good morning, Eddie. How are you going?
I'm good, thank you. Firstly, on the jump up, what do you make of the decision to close this track and also to put in a sealed road?
Access for the future is our basic tenet in Track Care, and we try and maintain tracks and keep them open. But if things aren't going appropriately, then it's not a good idea to keep the track open. So when I look at the article the ABC had about it, and people were moving stones and the track is actually washing away and you can only get up there with a fully decked out four-wheel drive, that means it's accessible to those, if you like, elite people who can get in there. And I don't think that's fair. I think it's appropriate what they're doing. I think that we should respect what the land managers decide in terms of safety, be it DBCA or Indigenous community groups. And I think this one, it's actually a good idea to close that and make it accessible to people who don't have four-wheel drives.
So what would you say is the characteristics of a good, sustainable four-wheel drive track?
A good, sustainable four-wheel drive track, a track that would be appropriately labelled for the four-wheel drives that can go down it. So we do work in places where caravans and two-wheel drives can go, but we also do work on the Canning Stock route, and it would be inappropriate to take a camper trailer on the Canning Stock route. So it's horses for courses, I suppose. It depends on the track. To be sustainable, you've got to take into account what the actual conditions are like. If it's wet, especially up north, don't go. You will just dig up the track. Don't create alternate tracks. I mean, one of the big things that we have a problem with in Perth is that we have chicken tracks. We have one main track and then 17 levels of difficulty around those tracks for different vehicles that go through. So keeping it on the track is probably one of the most important things to do.
Has four-wheel driving been growing in popularity in WA over the past few years?
COVID has tripled the number of four-wheel drives sold in Perth. A lot of them don't go off-road, I know that, but in 2016, the sales figures we had from the Motor Trade Association were that four-wheel drives were selling twice as fast as normal vehicles, and it's about quadruple now. It's absolutely phenomenal, the sorts of things that people are buying and using in Perth. So yes, it's staggering, and lots of new people are coming up to your area with absolutely no knowledge of how to drive in those areas.
Yeah, so what are some of the mistakes or misconceptions that you see from newer drivers?
We had some people that we know who had their tyre pressures at 50 psi while going up sand dunes. If you've got a nice 5.7 litre V8 petrol, you can do that and leave a big rooster tail behind, but that does not help the environment and does not help the tracks. So that's a classic mistake. High-speed travel, doing 100 kilometres an hour on a severely corrugated road with high pressure, and misconceptions about what you can do with cars and their capabilities. For example, going out onto a beach in two-wheel drive and not knowing how to put it into four-wheel drive.
So when you have more four-wheel drives in the state perhaps than ever before, and some people who are not familiar with going off-road four-wheel driving, how does that impact the tracks that people use?
So we have, it ranges from the Canning Stock route right down to the Holland track in the south of WA, where you will have, areas where you need 45-inch tyres just to clear through the ruts in the dry, never mind when it's wet. We have a track called the Powerline track out from Mundaring, and there is one part of that that is the width of a 200 series Land Cruiser and about the same depth. And people go through that as a challenge in the wet to see whether they can go through and only just put scratches on the sides of their car. So there's a lot of issues. The other one is camping in the bush. People believe that if you dig a small hole and bury your poo, that's okay, but little brown and white butterflies come out of that, and the dingoes love it, so they go and dig it out. So those sorts of things, not appropriate. If it's going to be sustainable, you need to be self-contained. You need to be able to take back more than you bring in.
It's 10 on ABC Pilbara and ABC Kimberley. I'm speaking with Graham Webber, who is the chair of Track Care WA. What do people enjoy about getting off-road, Graham? What is it that you enjoy about it?
Well, two things for us, really. It's getting out into remote locations. I think where the smiles linger longer is beautiful. So Wayne, I thank Wayne for that. We enjoy getting away from our normal everyday lives, going out into the bush. I had some work we were doing at the Gascoyne River where we were renovating about a 90-year-old corrugated iron shearing quarters into a camp kitchen, and we were using a 100-year-old steel corrugated iron roller to straighten out the iron. Doing experiences like that where we're not phone happy and technology happy, and getting out to remote locations where it's quiet, that's what we love, absolutely.
So how do you see, I guess, a way to strike a balance in the future where there is a demand from people to be able to have that experience? There's also increasingly environmental and cultural concerns about certain tracks. How do you see that balance going forward?
Allocating areas. So if you, by all means, I'd like to keep every area, we possibly could open, but only with respecting what the land managers want us to do. So if there are places we can't go, we shouldn't go there. But to have an area where if you want to do donuts in your four-wheel drive and just test out how fast you can go, then there should be a location that is basically sacrificial that you can use. And there are several of those in WA. But I think we need a couple more places like that. Mine sites, old mine sites, would be a good area that you could do that sort of thing to have challenging four-wheel driving. But people should stick to what is appropriate for the area. So if you're in an environmentally sensitive area, like the Canning Stock route, you shouldn't be doing donuts in the salt pans. And that's the sort of thing that we try and discourage, and that's worked in various areas where we have done our work and worked with different groups. So it's that allocated areas for playing and then looking after the rest of the state.
And on the Canning Stock route, how have things been going since it reopened?
Excuse me. The Canning Stock route was relatively quiet this year. There were a few people there. Some people went during COVID, which was inappropriate, and they didn't have permits and all that sort of stuff, but that happens. We don't know how many people went up the Canning Stock route this year. We did an audit because we have 15 toilets that we've built over the last 25 years, and we've refurbished the wells for water. So that we had a bit of travel and they encountered a couple of people. But to give people an idea, when we started in 1994-95, there were about 750 vehicles did the Canning Stock route in that year. And in 2019, just pre-COVID, there were 7,500 vehicles did that track. It is quite busy in the peak season.
Graham, look forward to talking again soon. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thanks, Eddie. Have a good day.
Graham Webber, he's the chair of Track Care